This is Batman, security level Omega. Password, Delta Charlie -27-5-1939. Enable new protocol. Title, Academy Contingency. After my confrontation with my alternate universe counterpart Owlman, I took some time to study the infinite Earths he'd uncovered. One universe in particular caught my attention, Earth 11414. A future iteration of our world, where 80% of the planet's population possesses a biological superpower known as a quirk. Most have harmless abilities that pose little to no threat, while others can bring entire cities or whole countries to their knees. Through surveillance and intelligence gathering, I've identified several potential high-risk groups from this world. The first I have discovered is a group of high school students from one of the most revered hero schools in the world, UA High, located in Japan. This particular group, designated as Class 1A, is a group of first-year students that have been on the front lines of numerous villain attacks and various small and large-scale operations, neutralizing threats that endangered not just Japan, but their entire world. Given their unusually high combat experience, power levels, and psychological profiles, I have devised a series of individual countermeasures to handle every member of this hero class, should they become a threat. These contingency plans are based on intelligence compiled through passive and active surveillance, quirk registry files, academic files, street-level CCTV, UA security camera logs, and reconnaissance during their training sessions and internships. While I have doubts that most of these students will ever become a threat to their world or ours, we must be prepared for the worst, always. Academy Contingency, file code name Starlight, alias Can't Stop Twinkling. Don't ask. Threat level, low to medium. Aoyama's quirk allows him to emit a focused laser blast from his navel region. His costume is currently fitted to fire additional lasers from his kneecaps and shoulders, but his navel region is the primary source of his quirk's power. His beams are highly concentrated, long range, and potentially devastating. However, the biological toll is considerable. Excessive use of his powers induces nausea, followed by acute abdominal pain. If forced into direct engagement, visual obfuscation, smokescreens, or flashbangs should impair his accuracy. Aoyama also wears a specialized support belt designed to regulate and suppress accidental quirk discharge. Damaging or removing the belt could trigger uncontrolled laser fire, increase his physical discomfort, and force a retreat or rapid exhaustion. He also appears to suffer from a vanity complex, overly concerned with his appearance and eager for praise and attention. Disrupting his confidence through calculated psychological interference, insults, staged embarrassment, or targeted humiliation could destabilize his composure in combat. Academy Contingency, file codename Alien Queen, alias Pinky, threat level medium. Mina Ashido's quirk allows her to secrete a corrosive acid from her skin, capable of melting through most non-resistant materials. She can also adjust the solubility and viscosity of her own acid, using it for offense and defense to protect allies. She's a surprisingly versatile opponent, and one that would make her a difficult foe to face should she ever turn against the heroes. Her outward demeanor is usually cheerful, even carefree, but appearances can be deceptive. Recovered files from UA psychological evaluations conducted by the hero counselor Hound Dog reveal latent trauma. The deaths of certain pro-heroes during her time at UA and an encounter in her earlier years with a villain known as Gigantomachia have left lasting mental scars. Under extreme stress, she may revert to a fear-driven hesitation, a vulnerability that I could exploit using a modified scarecrow fear toxin. Extended use of her quirk has also been shown to wear down her body's natural resistance to her own acid. a biological limit that can be exploited in prolonged engagements. I'm testing the feasibility of neural virtual simulation systems and controlled hallucinations to simulate an overwhelming, unbeatable opponent. Under the right parameters, such a scenario would force Pinky to exhaust her quirk and leave her vulnerable to apprehension. Further testing is required. Academy Contingency, file codename Anira, alias Froppy, threat level low to medium. Asui's quirk is categorized as an animal type. She possesses the full physiological traits of a frog, including enhanced leaping, wall climbing, an extendable tongue, underwater respiration, and even the ability to camouflage herself. While she can be a formidable opponent, especially in water-rich environments, the biology she mimics is also her greatest vulnerability. The most effective countermeasure I've discovered is to put her into an environment with a greatly lowered temperature, thus forcing her into a state of brumation, a biological hibernation response all frogs share. Cryo-weaponry based on modifications to Mr. Freeze's cold emitters or Captain Cold's Absolute Zero tech can reduce environmental temperature to critical levels in a matter of seconds. Once incapacitated, containment in a climate-controlled chamber will ensure she remains neutralized. Academy Contingency, file codename Turbo, alias Ingenium, threat level medium to high. Tenya Iida possesses a speed-focused quirk. The exhaust ports embedded in his calves generate bursts of high-speed propulsion, allowing for sustained dashes and powerful kicks. While his current recorded top speed is nowhere close to that of the Flash, his power would make him a significant threat if he ever went against his heroic ways. With all speedsters, immobilization is the key to stopping him. Reinforced bolas, capture nets, or tensile capture wire calibrated to withstand high-speed torsion are potential options. If it's possible to take him by surprise, reinforced sealants applied to the openings of his exhaust should inhibit thrust generation. If the need for retreat or disruption is required, blocking his vision can also shift momentum. A targeted burst of rapid drying paint to his visor would cautiously force him into a full stop or prevent quirk use out of personal safety. Also, while UA school files show that Iida is one of his class's smartest students, sports festival footage confirms that he can be gullible enough to be deceived by a clever enough opponent, given the circumstance. Academy Contingency, file codename Newton, alias Aravity, threat level medium. Uraraka's quirk allows her to nullify gravity on anything she touches with her fingertips, placing it into a zero-gravity state. While she's not physically imposing, her quirk alone could make her a highly dangerous threat, especially in a civilian-dense environment. The collateral potential would be devastating. As such, should she ever turn, concussion grenades or tranquilizer darts are a straightforward method to stop her. Luring her into an environment with no objects for her to influence could also shift the advantage in your favor. Another solution I've devised is the deployment of a specialized smoke bomb laced with pepper gas, engineered to induce temporary blindness, respiratory irritation, and spatial disorientation. Due to her recorded self-defense training with the pro hero Gunhead, close-range combat is ill-advised unless she is impaired, or you're a skilled enough combatant to avoid contact with her fingertips. A grappling hook or other support devices that allow for mid-air mobility should be used if you fall under the effects of her quirk. One unconventional weakness I've flagged is her fixation on money. She's known by her friends to be highly frugal, and according to academic files and public statements, she intends to become a pro hero specifically to support her family financially. It's unclear whether this motivation creates a vulnerability to bribery or financial manipulation. Further testing on the effectiveness of money-based psychological traps is required, under controlled conditions. Academy Contingency, file codename Tail, alias Tailman. Threat level, low to medium. Mashirao Ojiro is a close-quarters combatant specializing in a unique martial arts style utilizing his prehensile tail. Based on footage I've obtained during a villain attack on his school, his skill and technique are strong enough for him to defeat nearly a dozen threats single-handedly. He may not look special, but he's a deceptively effective fighter. His tail serves as both his primary offensive and defensive asset. Neutralize it and the advantage shifts. Tactical recommendations include a lidocaine anesthetic injection administered from range that would cause numbness in the tail muscles, or a directed non-lethal electric current delivered via taser or electrified floor traps. Alternatively, pressure point strikes along the lumbar or coccygeal nerve clusters can impair its functionality. However, due to the unique biological makeup of his tail, this approach should only be attempted if pacifying his quirk through gadgets is not an available option. Once the tail is compromised, standard takedown methods should become effective. Academy Contingency, file codename Shocker, alias Charge Bolt, threat level medium. An opponent capable of discharging high voltage electricity from his body. He supplements this with support gear that fires conductor discs, allowing him to direct his current wherever the discs attach to. Should Kaminari ever become a threat, the following plans I've devised should be efficient in stopping him. Firstly, his quirk has its own biological limiter. Excessive quirk discharge causes him to suffer a near neurological shutdown, reducing Kaminari to a disoriented, near catatonic state. Quirk registry data states that once this happens, he remains this way for up to a full hour. If he can be provoked into premature overuse through decoys or hallucinations, his own quirk becomes the most effective countermeasure. His quirk also shares several parallels with an adversary I've faced in the past, Livewire. As with her, exposure to water should disrupt conductivity and dissipate his charges. The deployment of a dust bomb composed of silicate dust will also neutralize his ability to generate electricity. Psychological profiling also reveals he has a weakness for girls. With the right delivery system, either voice mimicry, holographic projection, or light hypnosis via optical frequencies, his attention can be diverted or manipulated. He also has the lowest grades of any student in his entire grade, including those from his rival hero class. He's impulsive, easily distracted, and highly exploitable. Strategic deception and misdirection should prove more than sufficient in most engagements. As for his earlier mentioned support device, I've developed a mirrored version of his disc gadget. Field testing confirms it can significantly reduce the effectiveness of electricity-based attacks, thus reducing his offensive power. Academy Contingency, file codename Chivalry, alias Red Riot, threat level medium. Red Riot's quirk lets him harden his body to near impervious levels, allowing him to absorb high levels of blunt force trauma and continue fighting. He can further boost his power with a form he calls Red Riot Unbreakable, a further enhanced form that allows him to become invulnerable to most forms of attacks, including fire and being crushed by dozens of tons of force. His preferred combat strategy is straightforward: rush in head-on, take the hits, and counter with brute force. This kind of reckless, linear fighting style is predictable and exploitable. However, direct hand-to-hand engagement is ill-advised due to the nature of his quirk. Even a glancing strike from his hardened form could cause severe damage. Based on CCTV footage from his internship studies and the yearly UA Sports Festival, Kirishima can only retain his hardened form for a limited time. Training sessions confirm he can only use his unbreakable form for approximately 30 to 40 seconds before he's forced to power down. While prolonged evasion would be a feasible strategy, a faster, safer neutralization option is the deployment of a high-intensity chemical agent, preferably tear gas or fear-inducing hallucinogens from a distance. This will lead to a distorted perception, prevent breathing, and likely force him out of his hardened state long enough for incapacitation. Academy Contingency, file codename Bird Call, alias Anima, threat level low to medium. Koji Koda possesses the ability to command animals through vocalized intent. However, his ability is dependent on two variables: vocal output and his proximity to animal life. Removing either significantly reduces his threat level. A controlled strike to the throat or the use of tear gas, if administered quickly enough, will prevent him from issuing commands. Alternatively, luring him into an isolated, sterilized location devoid of animal presence renders him functionally powerless. Combat footage from his final exams show an additional weakness. Despite his ability, he's not capable of full mental control over animals. The wildlife he commands can refuse his orders and be scared off if they're within the vicinity of loud, high-frequency sounds. A high-powered, amplified speaker device should be enough to keep the animals he communicates with at bay. Psychological profiling also reveals he has a phobia of bugs. While this fear is likely not as severe as it was in his earlier school year, it can still be weaponized against him. Must investigate the effectiveness of a modified scarecrow fear toxin calibrated to trigger entomophobia. If successful, it should result in panic-induced paralysis, neutralizing him as a threat. Academy Contingency, file codename Glucose, alias Sugarman, threat level medium. Rikido Sato is capable of increasing his physical strength based on the amount of sugar he consumes. His quirk registry file states his strength increases about 5 times for a period of 3 minutes after consuming 10 grams of sugar. If he ingests another 10 grams of sugar while his quirk is active, the 3-minute timer is reset and his strength is further increased 5-fold. Extended use of his quirk leads to a steep drop in his cognitive functions, leaving him vulnerable. Direct confrontation at peak charge is not advised. Instead, the optimal strategy against Sugarman is endurance-based evasion. Keep your distance and prolong the engagement through environmental attrition until the drawbacks of his quirk force him to slow down. Basic countermeasures such as tranquilizers and high-concentration chemical agents such as tear gas should also be enough to stop him. Academy Contingency, file codename Hydra, alias Tentacle, threat level medium. Shoji's quirk, Dupla Arms, allows him to replicate body parts at the end of his extended limbs. These include eyes, ears, additional hands, and even mouths. When using his ears and eyes, he gains heightened spatial awareness, multi-directional sensing, and advanced environmental tracking. In combat, he's a durable, close-range powerhouse capable of detecting sneak attacks. Combined with his high pain tolerance and physical endurance, Shoji is built for attrition-based fights. Tactically, his greatest strength lies in reconnaissance. He can see around corners, hear through walls, and detect threats across multiple vectors. Standard stealth approaches are ineffective. Concussion grenades or sonic and EM pulse scramblers designed to disorient multisensory input are the best countermeasures I could find to neutralize his strengths. Attacking the tips of his arms with a ranged attack has also been shown to greatly weaken his capabilities. Close-range combat should be avoided if possible. He possesses no capabilities to attack from range, so keeping engagements to medium or long range is the optimal approach. Academy Contingency, file codename Decibel, alias Earphone Jack, threat level low to medium. Kyoka Jiro's quirk enables her to channel her heartbeat through her auxiliary audio jacks attached to her earlobes. She can stick her jacks into surfaces to track the exact location of potential targets. Her quirk registry file has no information on the range of her scouting capabilities, but training footage shows that she's able to pick up sounds from just over a quarter of a mile away. She also possesses sound amplifiers on her forearms and boots that, if she plugs her earjacks into, can fire powerful sound wave attacks. However, her quirk requires her to remain stationary for optimal accuracy and power output. In most instances, Jiro cannot move while actively using her powers, locking her into a narrow engagement pattern and leaving her vulnerable to attack unless she is well hidden or supported by teammates. Stun grenades, flashbangs, and other audio disorienting ordinances can scramble her auditory perception and create openings. Damaging her auxiliary jacks from a distance has also been shown to prevent her from using her powers entirely. She also appears to share the same countermeasure to another sound user from my world, Black Canary, in that recordings of her quirk, if played back at matched or greater intensity, will cancel her sound waves. Academy Contingency, file codename Dispenser, alias Cellophane. Threat level, low to medium. Cellophane's quirk lets him dispense adhesive tape from his elbows, using it for ranged entrapment and rapid mobility. While he's not particularly destructive, in the right environment, his constant movement and support capabilities could give him a tactical edge. Camera footage from UA joint training sessions confirm a vulnerability. His tape can be neutralized by fast-drying adhesives or chemical compounds that interfere with his tape's surface tension. If administered mid-engagement, it'll render any defensive tactics he deploys ineffective. The tape itself isn't especially durable. Reinforced batarangs can effortlessly sever his tape mid-air, leaving him suspended and vulnerable. His elbows are the source of his quirk. Blocking the ports should nullify his powers. Shoulder or elbow dislocation via close quarters combat is also viable, assuming timing is precise. Academy Contingency, file codename Darkside, alias Tsukuyomi. Threat level, medium to high. Tokoyami possesses a semi-autonomous entity known as Dark Shadow, a sentient construct of living darkness. It acts as both shield and weapon, extending from his body to attack or defend on command. The strength and aggression of Dark Shadow depends on how much light is in the environment around it. In full darkness, it becomes increasingly erratic, even uncontrollable, and capable of wide-scale devastation. Combat records show that Tokoyami himself sometimes struggles to contain his quirk in dark environments or when emotionally compromised. Should Tokoyami ever turn rogue, or an event were to occur where he can't control his quirk and it goes on a rampage, light is the best option against Tsukuyomi's quirk. Floodlights, magnesium flares, flashbangs, even the high beams of the Batmobile that I can call upon will greatly weaken his quirk and force it into retreat, leaving Tokoyami exposed and unprotected. Academy Contingency, file codename Freezerburn, alias Shoto, threat level high. Todoroki possesses a rare dual quirk manifestation. The left side of his body generates extreme heat and flames, while the right side produces sub-zero cryokinetic blasts. Alone, either power is formidable, but combined, they neutralize most elemental weaknesses. Traditional counters to fire and ice-based combatants such as heat shielding or cryo grenades are ineffective. His power scale, versatility, and intelligence put him in the upper echelon of Class 1A. In a direct fight, attrition is not a viable option. Close-range combat should be avoided unless you possess the ability to evade or resist his powers. However, Todoroki's psychological profile reveals vulnerabilities. Trauma associated with his father, the hero known as Endeavor, has left a lasting mental scar. Auditory or visual hypnosis designed to resurface repressed memories could disrupt his mental state and delay his response time long enough to utilize an opening of attack. Further testing of psychological effectiveness is required. The best contingency plan I've been able to find is the use of a drone that plays a projection of a villain from this world by the name of Mr. Smiley. Direct eye contact with this projection has been shown to incapacitate anyone who stares at it for up to 2 hours, providing more than enough time to utilize sleep gas and other neutralizing agents to apprehend him. I'll need to test this drone on some of the villains back in Gotham. Alternatively, I've been working on a specialty nanite mist laced with thermal regulators that once deployed override quirk-induced body temperature manipulation. Effectiveness of this failsafe is unknown. Further testing is required. Academy Contingency. File codename Gloves. Alias Invisible Girl. Threat level low. Hagakure's quirk bends light around her body, rendering her physical body completely invisible. This makes her a born infiltrator and close-range ambusher. Despite her optical disappearance, she's not intangible. She can still be heard, touched, tracked, and neutralized. Infrared vision integrated into my cowl or from a pair of high-tech goggles should detect her body heat in real time. Combined with echolocation pulses, she becomes fully trackable, even in pitch-black or cluttered environments. In team operations, marking agents, including thermographic smoke or pressurized paint capsules, can be deployed to reveal her outline to others. She also possesses a secondary flash-based attack, discharging a blinding burst of light similar to a flashbang. Cowl auto-dimming protocols and retina shielding lenses neutralize this effect instantly. Academy Contingency. File codename Short Fuse. Alias Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite. Threat level high. After reviewing his psychological profile, training records, and observations of his homeroom instructor, I've concluded that despite his volatile and immature temperament, Katsuki Bakugo is one of Class 1A's most formidable fighters. On a personal note, his demeanor is similar to that of the fifth Robin, Damian Wayne. Arrogant, impulsive, and combative. While his confrontational nature often strains relationships with peers and isolates potential allies, his effectiveness in battle consistently places him among the strongest in his class. As such, should Bakugo become a future threat, the following plans I've devised should be enough to neutralize him. Bakugo's quirk causes the sweat from his palms to inhibit nitroglycerin-like properties, allowing him to fire explosive blasts from his hands for devastating ranged attacks and enhanced mobility. The strength of his quirk increases based on the amount of sweat he produces, meaning his combat style is momentum-driven. Once engaged, he grows increasingly difficult to stop the longer the fight drags on. The key to beating him is to neutralize him as quickly as possible, or to disrupt his rhythm mid-fight through traps and immobilization gadgets such as capture nets. Exposure to cryogenic weaponry, sweat-inhibiting chemical agents, or climate suppression fields will limit or prevent his ignition capabilities. As for containment, a specialized restraint device built to remove the air around his hands should prevent him from igniting his explosions. As mentioned earlier, he has a temper and an uneasy personality fueled by his drive to prove he's the best. This can cause him to be vulnerable to manipulation tactics through provocation. Deliberate baiting can also draw him into traps, overextensions, or distract him long enough for a counterattack. Equipment blueprints obtained from his costume company reveal that the gauntlets on his forearms serve as reservoirs for stored sweat capable of discharging massive, concentrated blasts capable of destroying entire structures. Rupturing the release valves from range should disable this attack. If close-range engagement becomes unavoidable, target the arms. Elbow dislocation, pressure point strikes along the arms, or brachial plexus suppression should reduce his combat effectiveness. Academy Contingency. File codename Successor. Alias Deku. Threat level Extreme. Over the span of roughly a single year, Deku has faced and defeated threats that could end entire cities, nations, or worse. He's stopped coordinated villain operations, battled enhanced individuals with minimal support, and even survived being framed for mass murder without cracking under the pressure. His abilities come from a quirk known as One for All, a transferable power passed down from hero to hero, stockpiling strength and additional quirks from its previous users. The details of his quirk were a closely guarded secret, but recently, his quirk's true nature was exposed to the public after a brutal confrontation with a supervillain known as All for One. This exposure has put Midoriya in direct opposition to some of the most dangerous forces in his country and even his Earth. Through extensive psychological analysis, I've determined that Deku's greatest weakness isn't physical, it's emotional. Midoriya is obsessed with saving others, even enemies, regardless of the cost. This altruism stems from his lifelong admiration for All Might, the hero who passed One for All to him. He strives to live up to that legacy, to be the kind of hero who saves everyone, even if it costs him a piece of himself. It's noble, but also exploitable. This savior complex creates a blind spot. He can be manipulated, deceived, and baited, especially if innocent lives are involved. That, more than any force, can lead him into a trap. However, if Midoriya were to shed his heroic ways and become a national or global threat, the following secondary tactics must be enacted to stop him. Firstly, direct combat is not advised. His combat speed, power, and tactical adaptation match and surpass some of the strongest heroes from this world. He's capable of neutralizing high-level threats in a matter of seconds, minutes at most. He's also endured several serious injuries with his hands and arms in the past. Repeated bone fractures, ligament damage, and muscular tears have left him with lingering vulnerabilities, but exploiting this drawback requires an opponent with speed and power similar to his own. That narrows the field considerably. One of his inherited abilities, Danger Sense, alerts him to lethal intent and incoming threats. A surprise attack with intent to harm will trigger it, rendering traditional ambushes ineffective. The best neutralization method I've been able to find is the same I've devised against his classmate, Todoroki. The deployment of an automated drone fitted with a projection of a villain from his world known as Mr. Smiley. See Contingency Plan Freezer Burn for further details on the effects of Mr. Smiley's quirk and the drone's intended probability of pacification. After that, it's simply a matter of effective containment. Academy Contingency File Codename Grape. Alias Grape Juice. Threat level low. Most of what I've found about this student is disappointing. Repeated violations of dorm protocols, inappropriate behavior around his female classmates, and dozens of reports of sexual misconduct. It's a wonder he hasn't already been expelled from UA. But in the field, things shift. Despite his questionable conduct, Mineta is one of the more intelligent students in his class, using his adhesive-based quirk with surprising creativity in both offense and evasion. And while his courage is lacking, he's survived high-pressure situations through cunning, not strength. Should Mineta turn on the heroes or fall into his villainous behavior as a result of his personal flaws, the following tactics to stop him should be sufficient. Mineta's primary weakness is psychological. He's cowardly by nature. Psychological intimidation, fear-based manipulation, or a dominant show of strength is likely to make him panic and retreat. He also displays an obvious weakness for sexually attractive women. This can be exploited via hypnosis, disguise, mental suggestion, or decoy operatives. The same tactics I've used against Nightwing and Green Arrow during past simulations. His quirk, the ability to produce and throw highly adhesive hair-like spheres, loses effectiveness against non-stick composite materials. I've already developed a reactive armored weave capable of resisting the bonding properties of his hair should the need for it arise. Academy Contingency. File codename Factory. Alias Creati. Threat level medium to high. Despite being the vice president of her class, Yaoyorozu is often considered the heart of Class 1A. Her academic record confirms she's the smartest student in her grade and is always willing to lend a hand to her classmates and other students through field or educational support. But it's her sense of responsibility that makes her invaluable to her peers. Her quirk allows her to fabricate virtually any non-living object, provided she understands its structure and has the material mass to produce it. However, her combat and quirk effectiveness is directly tied to her confidence and mental clarity. Yaoyorozu's biggest weakness is her over-reliance on by-the-book pre-planning and tactical information. Personal notes from her homeroom teacher confirm she struggles with making spur-of-the-moment decisions. When she's in a high-stress combat environment, facing off against an opponent with an unpredictable attack strategy, or her plan of approach falls apart, she's been shown to panic, retreat, or freeze up on the spot, overwhelmed by the pressure of making the wrong choice. Data pulled from UA counseling logs indicate she fears failure, letting others down, and being exposed as potentially inadequate despite her intelligence and privileged upbringing. Investigate modified versions of Scarecrow fear toxin tailored to her specific anxiety profile. Academy Contingency. File codename Dry Eye. Alias Eraserhead. Threat level low to medium if quirkless, high if possessing a quirk. Shota Aizawa, the homeroom teacher of Class 1A. His quirk allows him to nullify the quirks of any target within his line of sight. The effect is nearly instantaneous, but his power is reliant on uninterrupted vision and concentration. Based on street CCTV footage of his past battles, Eraser implements the same combat strategy in almost all of his engagements. Shut down a person's quirk from mid-range, then use his binding scarf to quickly trap his targets in place, adding in close quarters combat if necessary. To counter this tactic, bait him into deploying his scarf, dodge the attack, then immediately counter with the use of gadgets utilizing quick-drying, special adhesives to pin the scarf to a nearby surface. Without his scarf, his mid-range control is compromised. Engage in close quarters with caution. While he's formidable in hand-to-hand, he commonly does battle with quirk-possessing opponents who rely entirely on their powers to fight. A highly skilled opponent with no superpowers, such as myself, should trip up his pattern of engagement and put him on the defensive. Deploy tear gas, flashbangs, high-frequency sonic emitters, or strobe lighting to interrupt his vision and break erasure. In an emergency, unconventional tactics such as sand or debris thrown at his eyes can work as a last resort disruptor. Academy Contingency. File codename Lyrebird. Alias Unknown. Threat level medium to high. At the time of this entry, Hitoshi Shinso is not officially a part of UA's hero course. However, based on faculty evaluations, CCTV training footage, and performance logs during joint training exercises, his transfer into the hero course is confirmed to be inevitable. I've chosen to include him here as a precaution should he join Class 1A. Shinso's quirk, Brainwashing, allows him to take full control of a target's motor functions if they verbally respond to a statement he issues. It doesn't happen with every sentence he speaks, only the ones that he decides activates it. His gear consists of an exact copy of Eraserhead's capture scarf, along with a mask-shaped device called persona cords, which can change his voice to mimic any person he desires with exceptional accuracy. According to his quirk registry profile, his quirk cannot work if it is amplified through a megaphone, played back through a recording device, or if it's transferred through a microphone into a speaker system. So the worry of a high-ranged attack or planted ambush is not of concern. The best counter to Shinso's power is also the simplest: do not speak. If Shinso is suspected to be in the area, communication between teammates and contacts outside the area of engagement must be maintained exclusively through hand signals or nonverbal device communication, such as text messages, Morse code, or pagers. Verbal interactions with Shinso must be treated as a high-risk threat vector. The use of pre-recorded voice samples played in response to his statements via audio players or remote-controlled decoys could possibly deceive him into drawing him into the open or letting his guard down. Further testing of this strategy's effectiveness is required. Should mind control occur, any countermeasure to snap you out of his control must be acted upon immediately. A teammate applying physical trauma to the body, detonation of neural overload failsafes, shock pulse modules embedded at the base of the skull, whatever is necessary to sever his influence. Should any of these contingency plans I've outlined prove ineffective, there remains one final measure. Academy Contingency, file code name Blackout. This protocol is to be deployed only in the event that any member of Class 1A poses an irreversible threat and all attempts at reasoning, restraint, or rehabilitation have failed. During my investigation of Earth 11414, I uncovered classified police reports referencing a criminal syndicate known as the Shie Hasaikai. Though they were ultimately dismantled by a joint team of pro-heroes, the aftermath revealed something more dangerous than the organization itself. They had developed a quirk-destroying drug, a compound capable of permanently nullifying an individual's quirk through targeted injection. The drug was distributed via specialized bullets and designed for mass production. The plan was to distribute the drug across the country, then profit by selling a cure to the chaos they created. While the original formula was lost in the police raid and all known samples of the drug no longer exist, I've made a discovery during my investigation into Deku's medical and injury history. I discovered highly classified documents through the Jaku General Hospital's portal belonging to a doctor by the name of Kyodai Garaki, the chairman of Jaku Hospital. These documents contain now decrypted logs containing a step-by-step process of recreating the quirk-destroying drug. It's my theory that Dr. Garaki was likely working with a group called the League of Villains from the Shadows at an earlier time. He had likely obtained a sample of the drug from them with the intent of researching and manufacturing the drug to be used against the heroes at a future time. Currently, he is imprisoned at the time of this message, with his associates currently at large. From the data I have received, I should have little trouble with recreating my own version of the quirk-destroying drug to be used as a last resort. To anyone from Class 1A that somehow stumbles upon these contingency plans, if you're hearing this, know that I am not your enemy. I do not seek control, and I do not wish to start a war. I'm simply doing what needs to be done for all of us.